Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to decode a seriously powerful text that acts basically like a survival guide. I mean, think of it like having the ultimate video game cheat code, or a direct line walkie-talkie to headquarters when you need it the absolute most. Whether you're navigating a tricky day at school, dealing with a really tough choice, or just feeling totally overwhelmed, this text gives us a clear, step-by-step strategy. So let's dive right in and see exactly how we can call in the cavalry. But first, tell me if this sounds familiar. Have you ever tried your absolute hardest to do the right thing? Like, maybe you promised yourself you definitely wouldn't get angry today, or you swore you'd tell the truth about something, but somehow you still ended up messing up and falling right into a sneaky trap? It is super frustrating, right? Well, the text we're looking at today explains exactly why that happens, and way more importantly, how to stop it. All right, let's jump straight into section 1, the sneaky traps around us. You see, we really aren't meant to navigate life blindly. The source text uses these fantastic old-school phrases like manifold temptations and gins of error. I know, gins of error sounds like some kind of weird magic potion, right? But it's actually just a fancy historical way of saying sneaky traps. These are traps specifically designed to trick us into making bad choices when we just aren't paying close enough attention. So let's look at the setup for these traps. The text describes an enemy, Satan, who is actively setting them. But here's the thing. He doesn't look like a cartoon monster with pointy horns hiding behind a tree with a giant net. No, the text says he uses tricky devices to ensnare us. It's super subtle. And to make matters worse, the source says we're walking through prevailing darkness. Imagine trying to sprint across your bedroom with all the lights turned off, knowing there are Legos scattered all over the floor. That is exactly what trying to be perfectly good entirely on your own is like. You are for sure going to step on a trap. Which brings us to section 2, why we need backup. Because if you're stuck in that dark room trying to dodge a floor full of invisible traps, you desperately need light from God to reveal them before you step on them. The text gives us a pretty serious warning here. Without this light to show us those sneaky traps, we absolutely will be ensnared. It's not a maybe it'll happen, it's a certainty. We literally need a spotlight from heaven to show us where it's actually safe to step. And this spotlight, this ultimate backup we're talking about, is called grace. Grace is the essential help, strength, and power from Christ that we literally cannot do without. Think of it like being handed a superpower straight from Jesus. It's not just a nice bonus to have, the text is super firm that we cannot do without it if we actually want to resist making those bad choices. So basically, we're left with two choices for how we handle this. On the one hand, we have the self-sufficient approach. This is when we act a bit too independent, thinking, hey, I can do this all by myself. The text warns that if we're too proud or independent to feel our need for help, we are going to be left entirely subject to those traps. But our second choice is the dependent approach. This is where the safety is. This is knowing that, as the source perfectly puts it, we can do absolutely nothing without the help of Jesus. Okay, let's move on to section 3. The secret communicator. You might be wondering, okay, so how do we actually get this back up? Well, the text gives us a totally simple rule. Ye have not, because ye ask not. That's a quote from James chapter 4, verse 2, and it forms the entire foundation of our source text today. It is incredibly simple, but we forget it all the time. If you don't use your communicator to ask for help, the help is not going to come. The text makes it clear that we must have this help which God alone can give, but that help will not arrive unasked. Now, how we ask matters just as much as asking in the first place. The text uses the word earnest over and over again. Earnest means meaning it with your entire heart. The source describes this as laying bare our souls. For us, that means being 100% honest, holding nothing back, and definitely not just repeating words you've memorized like a robot. It's a real, deep, honest feeling of needing help. Let's compare the two ways people usually use this secret communicator. First, you've got casual prayer. This is that autopilot mumbling, just going through the motions because you think it's what you're supposed to do. The text notes that these casual prayers happen all the time, but they completely miss the mark. Now compare that to earnest prayer. This is fervent, it's sincere, and it comes straight from the bottom of a humble heart. The text promises that this kind of prayer is what brings the strength and grace we need to resist the dark. Heaven always responds to genuine cries for help. And that brings us to the coolest part, section 4, angels on standby. So who exactly is responding when we call? Think of your heavenly backup team like teammates in a multiplayer video game who are stuck in the lobby and literally can't join the match until you send them the invite. The author of the text states they were actually shown angels of God all ready to impart grace and power. I mean, strong, powerful messengers of God are waiting on standby right now to give you power, but they're waiting for your cry. They will not bestow blessings unless solicited, which just means unless you ask. The text tragically notes that so often these powerful angels wait in vain simply because we forget to hit the call button. And hey, if you ever worry for even a second that God doesn't want to help you, the source material shares an incredible fact to totally reassure you. God desperately wants to bless you. In fact, He is more willing to give the Holy Spirit to those who ask than your own parents are to give you good gifts. I want you to think about the absolute best gift your parents ever gave you and how ridiculously happy they were to give it. God is even more eager than that to send you this heavenly backup. Let's wrap this up with Section 5, the magic key, humility. So we know the backup is waiting, and we know we need to use our communicator to call them in. But there is one final, absolutely crucial step to make sure your signal actually gets through. That magic key is humility. Humility just means bravely admitting that you don't know everything. The source talks about confession, humiliation, and true penitence. Honestly, that basically just means being completely willing to say, hey, I'm messed up, I'm sorry, and trusting entirely in Jesus. You literally have to admit you're lost in the dark before you can ask for the flashlight. Let's pull this whole thing together into 3 simple, action-oriented steps that you can use every single day. Step 1, be humble. Drop the act and admit you can't dodge those sneaky Lego traps all by yourself. Step 2, pray earnestly. Use your secret communicator and ask Jesus for help from the absolute bottom of your heart. Step 3, angels deploy. The second you ask, those heavenly messengers who have been waiting in the lobby rush in to bring you the exact grace and power you need to win the day. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. Your heavenly backup team, literally powerful angels full of grace and strength, is waiting on standby for your signal right this very second. They really don't want to wait in vain. So what hidden traps are you facing, and what do you need to ask them for today? Use your communicator. Call in the backup. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.